want to welcome you back to another edition of Political Breakfast. This week, Brian Robinson is here, of course, and Saba Long is stepping in for Theron Johnson, who's away this week. And so good to see you both.
Good to be with you. I see Saba's donned her Andre 3000 sweatshirt full over there. Is that a throwback to?
That's cool. I like that.
He's a flutist. This is from his concert when he was playing the flute, which was actually quite good.
Oh, okay. Well, excellent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so appropriate for another, not as cold as it has been, but another chilly morning here in the Atlanta metro area. Another dank morning,
Lisa,
as well.
No, Lisa. This
not cold.
This is balmy.
I almost wore a swimsuit to the office the day. This is, no, this is not cold. I don't even need a coat. It's just in the 40s. I don't need a coat. I want to apologize. I was talking to Saba and I were both at the Cobb Chamber event gala on Saturday night, the Cobb Prom as they call it.
Oh, and nice.
I had numerous folks mention that they missed having political breakfast last week, and I want to say we had planned to do a live event on Wednesday, and then the weather just stunk so bad that we decided to delay till February. Hope you'll get tickets and be there with us in person when we reconvene then. So sorry we weren't with you, but when that day didn't work out, the rest of the week was just too nuts to tape a show.
But there were some loyalists contacting the station. Is it still happening? Is it still happening? So they were going to make their way here, through ice, through snow, and whatever. So we appreciate those listeners as well. Yeah, God bless them. Well, over the weekend, do you call it a bombshell? We heard from former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who indicated that she might make a run for governor. I don't know, Saba, let's begin with you. Were you shocked by that?
No, I think it was a bit of a trial balloon. I think she's trying to see kind of, what, stick your finger in the air and see, okay, where's the wind blowing? Is this of interest to the public? I think also as a former elected official, Keisha Lance Bottoms knows not to let a crisis go to waste. And when Trump, right after, I think it was the night after the inauguration, he tweeted that he had fired her from a board that she had actually resigned from. She'd actually resigned from 2 boards that Biden had appointed her to. The other was FirstNet, which was kind of interesting that she resigned from that because that was a paid position. And she said, well, it's kind of hard to fire me if I resigned, right? And so not one to back down from a fight. I think she used that as an opportunity to get her name out there and say, hey, I've been talking about this. And she said when she left that she wasn't done with politics. And so I think she wants to see what might 2025 portend for her and if there's an opportunity for her to run statewide.
Yeah, I think his tweet about her being fired came across, at 1:30 in the morning, and I thought it was great of her to say, I can't believe he's thinking about me, with all these other things going on at 1:30 in the morning.
1:30 in the morning, I'd be a little creeped out. Somebody's late night communicating about me or to me. You said the word bombshell, Lisa, and I don't think it was a bombshell so much as it bombed. I don't see there being a groundswell of support for her to run for governor amongst the Democrats, much less Republicans, of course. That goes without saying. Here's the deal that she faces. If you are an Atlanta mayor or former Atlanta mayor, you have the benefit over someone coming out of the state legislature or even somebody like Mike Thurman as DeKalb CEO of having more name ID. The Atlanta mayor just organically gets attention in the region and throughout the state. So that's kind of a built-in advantage. The other advantage she has is she is a black woman in a primary where black women voters are the strongest voice of any demographic group. So black women have a huge say in who Democrats nominate in Georgia. 2 advantages. And I think that's kind of where the advantages end right there, other than maybe that Biden network opening up fundraising doors in other parts of the country, California, New York, where there are deep-pocketed interest. Although I don't think those people right now are overly thrilled with Joe Biden dropping out at the last minute and leaving a handicapped VP who doesn't have much time to run a campaign as the nominee. I think a lot of Democrats are mad with Joe Biden right now. So that's not really a benefit either. Keisha didn't seem to like being mayor of Atlanta. She didn't seem to be really engaged. if you're running as a former mayor, your fundraising base is the Atlanta business community, which almost universally felt that she was detached and uninvolved in the issues of importance to them. They did not see her as responsive to their needs. Her term overlapped with a big rise in violent crime, so much so that it started this secession movement in Buckhead. Property taxes went up. Police force couldn't get anywhere near its.
Can we blame Saba? Can we blame Keisha for all of that? No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
She came into office during an intense time. If you remember, and
it was 2017, not 2020.
Hold on. The first 100 days of her term, the city had a cyber attack that absolutely crippled city government. So she dealt with that. She dealt with the Trump administration. She dealt with the pandemic. You alluded to the social unrest and the George Floyd protests. She dealt with that. Just to correct the record, Keisha Lance Bottoms did not raise property taxes. Property taxes went up because of the economy, not because of the city of Atlanta said we're going to raise property taxes.
Good point there. She was handed a lot, like most mayors. She was handed a lot to start with.
And I think the mayors who led during the pandemic, who were in office during the pandemic, had an incredibly tough time. And a lot of them decided not to seek re-election, right? Or they ended up being defeated. And so, will she have a record to run on? Brian, I think that's the question that you're trying to get to. Will she have a record to run on? I will say this, as someone who worked on a campaign against Keisha when she ran for mayor, she is absolutely a fighter on the campaign trail. And so I think that is something to her advantage. Now, will she ultimately run? We don't know. Will she make it out of the Democratic primary? There's a chance. But I think there are also some other Democratic candidates that folks are going to be really interested in.
Yes.
And I think the number one question that she's going to have to answer is, will you do to Georgia what you did to Atlanta, which was decide not to seek a second term if you felt that the job was just too difficult or too much was going on to handle it. And I think that's what she's going to have to wrestle with, not only with the voters, but also with the donor class. How do I know that you're going to be fully committed and fully in it?
Yeah.
Was it your feeling that she was detached?
Yeah. I think that's a universal feeling. I'm sorry, you're asking Saba. It was my word. Okay.
I think, I think, and I'm trying to tread carefully on this, but I do feel like there was a stark contrast between the previous administration and the Keisha Lance Bottoms administration. There's no doubt about that. I think when Kasim was mayor, hate him or like him, he led. He was out front. He showed up 7 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year. And we didn't see that level of intensity and seriousness, I think, with the Bottoms administration. And so if you're comparing, the former mayor, Kasim, to Keisha's term, there was absolutely a different approach to governing.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really diplomatic way of saying it. And the other challenges that she faced, like, here's what we would, on the Republican side, love to do if she was the nominee for the Democrats in 2026 for governor, is replay those TV spots that she did on MSNBC and CNN where she's attacking Trump and Kemp over COVID closures and attacking Kemp over opening the economy here in Georgia. Her viewpoint was the viewpoint of her party back at the time that she did it. It was fairly mainstream, not really all that controversial, but it hasn't aged well. The public opinion, particularly in Georgia and probably around the country, has really congealed around the fact that Kemp was right and that we should have had other leaders stepping up and doing what he was doing as early as he did. We did not have an outbreak here because we reopened our economy. And in fact, our economy recovered quicker than most other states because he did open it. And the other thing she can't do is, after leaving mayor's office, she went to work for the Biden administration. And the Biden administration is unpopular in Georgia. Now, people tend to forget over time. They may look back at some juncture with more fondness toward Joe Biden. But for now, that's not the case, and it's difficult to come back and go, look at all these wonderful Biden policies I helped deliver to you, the people of Georgia. that's not a sellable message right now. So I think it's a very hard sell for her, particularly when you're going to see, in my opinion, on the Democrat side, a huge pent-up demand to run for higher offices. Stacey Abrams has had the ability and the power to pick who got to be the nominees. No one seriously challenged her to be the gubernatorial nominee. I don't think she has that power anymore. In fact, I know she doesn't. And those who have felt sidelined are going to start emerging and pressing forward. Again, I mentioned Saba and I were at the Cobb prom Saturday, saw State Senator Jason Estevez there, who's a leadership Georgia classmate of mine, impressive guy. And our kids go to school together, too, so we see each other a good bit. He's definitely taken a hard look at it. And Mike Thurman's still out there and has a lot of experience and deep reputation. Maybe Stacey Abrams again. I hear she's lost like 100 pounds. And I'm not making a joke about that. That shows maybe she's, kind of getting in shape, getting ready for a run, in addition to the health benefits that would benefit everyone, including me. So there's a lot of folks out there that are going to be interested. Some of them are very talented, and I just don't think that Keisha's going to be the cream of the crop.
Now, Brian, there's one name you didn't say that I was expecting, and that's Jason Carter.
Yeah, no. Hey, look, Jason did a fantastic job at his grandmother and grandfather's funerals. He was brilliant, hilarious, and touching, and just struck the right notes every step of the way. It was a fantastic national platform for him, too, should he wish to run for governor of Georgia again. I don't think he will because of family situations. I'm not betraying any confidences when I say, his wife has been facing a very serious health threat. I've heard him mention that on air, otherwise I wouldn't say it. I think his focus is at home and being a good husband and father to their children right now. So I just don't think the timing works out. But obviously,
for him,
I was the guy. I worked for Deal in 2014 when Carter was the Democrat nominee. So I was on the campaign against Jason Carter. And I watched him very closely during that time. And he's matured and improved as an orator, as a public figure. He's more comfortable in his own skin. He could be a really important figure in Georgia moving forward, should he choose to be.
Yeah, when he decides. Because, he's very, very hesitant about committing right now. And that's probably why. Yeah, his heart's at home right now, for sure.
As it should be, of course.
Timing in politics is everything, as Brian alluded to. On the Democratic side, there will be some other names that we haven't talked about, and some names that might surprise folks who are seriously looking at this and just might decide to do it.
You gonna list a few? You're gonna tell us a few?
Oh, I'm gonna wait. I'm
not gonna
out them. Betray trust. I'm not gonna out him.
Not gonna out him. Looking on the other side, though, Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr says he's raised a historic $2 million in the first 40 days of his campaign. So that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
And of course, happy to disclose on the front end that I've been long associated with Chris Carr. So I'm not pretending to be totally objective when I speak about him. But I can speak objectively about what he accomplished over these 2 months. Raising $2.2 million when there are fundraising limits to what any individual donor can give is an incredible feat. I can tell you, as someone who was on the ground, who was with Chris in November when he announced he was going to be running, there was a lot of eye rolling and what are y'all doing? And this is so poorly rolled out conversation. I heard it. I'm a little defensive about it, frankly. And what needs to be communicated here is he got out early, but didn't do a big event or anything, which was part of the eye rolling, because that's all going to come later. He's getting in when he did because he had to legally establish this fund to run for governor. And he more than likely, almost 100% likely, will be running against people who are able to self-fund to some degree, to like plop a few $1 million in to get the campaign going. Chris Carr's a regular guy. He has worked on public payrolls for most of his adult life as Economic Development Commissioner, as Chief of Staff to the beloved Johnny Isakson, as Attorney General. So he's not wealthy. He can't write a couple of $1 million for his campaign. So he had to get out there early so that he can compete. And that set this expectation where he had to get over this bar of credibility. If he had posted like $750,000, oh my God, the howls of laughter you would have heard, the derision he would have faced. 2.2 is more than respectable. I've spoken to other people who have been statewide candidates who came to me and were like, how did he do this? How is it physically possible to get that much money through the door in that 40-day period? So kudos to him. He worked extraordinarily hard to deliver on this and sent a signal that he's serious, sent a signal to the donor community that he's a good bet. And I think that's going to be an important step forward for his campaign.
Does the GOP kind of look at him now and say, okay, let's see how far he can go, or are we going to hear some other names popping up pretty soon?
Yeah, you'll have plenty of other names. Obviously, Burt Jones is waiting for the session to end, and there's going to be, the billionaire to be named later, probably, that somebody we haven't thought of who's going to pop in a bunch of money. And yeah, there are several people who made it clear they want to run for higher office. They may take on Ossoff, like Buddy Carter, the congressman from the 1st District on the coast. Rich McCormick also from Congress has made some noise about running. And then you got a lot of folks looking to run for lieutenant governor, AG, who we could empty out the General Assembly next year of people running for statewide office.
So Chris Carr should enjoy the spotlight while he can, right?
Yes, it's been sort of like a little side benefit to this whole strategy is whenever you bring up the governor's race for anybody, he gets mentioned in the Senate because he's the only announced candidate. So, I think there was some, consternation about announcing early because, Kemp's not a lame duck just yet. Kemp's got a big agenda that he wants to get passed. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kemp to run for U.S. Senate. And so there was some idea like, people announcing may put pressure on him to speed up his timeline to announce what he's going to do. But again, I feel really confident in telling you, I don't think Brian Kemp's going to run for U.S. Senate.
What I found interesting about Carr's announcement was, I think I text Brian about this. He had some phrase, and Brian, you may have written it. I don't know, but it was something about how he fashioned himself as a Republican, and he said something about he was a bit of a Kemp Republican, and he may have mentioned another Republican as well. And so that's what I think is going to be interesting to watch for Carr in particular is what lane does he occupy in the race? And the other part is just how far right is he going to have to go in the primary to get out, especially when you have someone like Burt Jones. I mean, I don't think you can get much to the right of Burt Jones. And Burt Jones will be able to raise $2 million in 2 minutes because he can just transfer some money right from one account over to the next.
Yeah.
Must be nice. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see, what happens over the course of the gubernatorial race and how, in particular, not only the lieutenant governor, but some of these other candidates that we expect who will get in, what they will do during this session of the Georgia General Assembly and how they will try to shore up their support within Republican ranks.
Already this week with the lieutenant governor talking about having a DOJ commission for Georgia.
The red tape rollback.
Yeah.
That sounded like something from like Target meets Walmart.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I like that. Well, the watch is on. The gubernatorial race. We are watching that closely here on Political Breakfast. And we thank you for tuning in for this week. Saba, Executive Director of the Atlanta Civic Circle. Always a pleasure having you. Good to see you. Brian Robinson, thank you for your thoughts always. There's more to come. There's more to come next week for sure.